So welcome everybody. Quick introduction to myself and Chris. The more handsome of the two of us is a chap called Chris Rowe. He's the head of talent acquisition at DHU Healthcare. Chris has been there since February 2023, and before that had an impressive list of achievements across a whole range of contract and interim roles, effectively where stuff needed fixing. It's been our pleasure to work with Chris for about the last 6 or 9 months, I think it is. And yeah, the relationship's pretty strong. Delighted to welcome him along. So my name's John Tarrant. I'm the founder and managing partner of DNA based in Bristol. We are thought and practice leaders in all things EVP and employer brand. Got 20 something staff covering creative, digital consulting, social media and other roles. Cover the UK, cover the world, cover all sectors and all sizes and shapes of business from Bristol to help them on their employer branding journey. We've run a few of these webinars, and when you look at the list of questions that the delegates want to ask, I don't think I've ever seen quite such a long list of questions. There's obviously a real hunger for information out there. People want to know how they can get the benefits of an effective employer brand. So our role today really is to try and answer as many of those questions as possible, to give you some sort of nutritious content over the next hour. We'll also follow up with an FAQ document to cover off any of the questions we didn't quite get to answer. So our job today is really to answer some of those questions, help you, help your thinking along a bit, give you some insights as to how you can apply best practice in employer branding into your business. And maybe give you some neat stuff that you could go and apply in your business tomorrow. So that's really our purpose for today. We like to focus on definitions when we're talking about EVP and employer brand. They are good business, they're good positive change, they're a means to an end, not an end in themselves. And to get engagement right across your business with your key stakeholders, engagement follows the clarity, and the clarity follows a clear definition. So this is the definition of an EVP, a statement of intent as to what you stand for as an employer and how you want to be known in the audiences that matter to you. And then from an employer brand point of view, this is the definition of an employer brand: your strategy to appeal to current and future talent, those that will thrive on your shared journey, and the identity and messaging that we put out into the world, whether that's within your own organization, because your staff have to buy your brand every day, or externally in terms of attraction or building your reputation as an employer. So it's really important. This is good business, it's good positive change, but you have to have it fixed and rooted in a really clear definition. Here at DNA, yes, we're thought and practice leaders. We're a really flexible, easygoing bunch to deal with, but we do have three non-negotiables. And they are that when we develop an EVP and employer brand for client, it has to be distinct. It's got to be uniquely you. Every organization is distinct. Most of them have not taken the opportunity to shape their story in the right way. And it can't be a situation where you look the same, sound the same, say the same things as your competitors in the same market, in the same sector, in the same geography. So number one, the non-negotiable has got to be distinct, got to be authentic. So what we're selling on the outside matches the internal reality. And it's got to be compelling. This thing is going to have to work hard for you. It's for life, not just for Christmas, and it's got to work hard for you right across the employee life cycle. So however you approach your employer brand journey, if you remember distinct, authentic, and compelling, you'll be in a reasonable place.
Great.
Right.
Thank you very much, John. Chris, over to you. Tell us a bit about DHU.
I'll keep it brief. So DHU, we are a healthcare provider. So we know the term NHS, and it's a distinctive brand in itself. We've grown up with it. So we are a social enterprise, so a not-for-profit organisation, but we provide frontline services. So not feeding heavy shares, not a private sector organisation, a CIC, a community interest company. We have two elements to the organisation. One is 111, which I think we're probably all familiar with on this call. We are the largest provider now in the UK, and we service around 5 million calls across the East and the West Midlands. And then the other side of the organisation, which is a bit more on the clinical side that we know and understand with healthcare, is our urgent emergency and primary care divisions, where we service some 11 million patients per year and up and down the East Midlands. So we run from Chesterfield all the way down to Northampton. Clearly, we have a support structure or a corporate function that sits behind that to power up and create that support and drive for our clinical colleagues. But first and foremost, we are a patient safety and a patient outcome driven organisation.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for that intro. Well, let's dive into the thick of it. Why did you need to deliver an EVP and an employer brand?
I think we're going to keep harking back to those three buzzwords that John mentioned. Being distinct is so key in our market. And if you think about healthcare, we're not trying to rob our neighbours, right? We're not trying to go to the nearest trust and take all of the headcount out of it. We need to create a level of sustainability. But equally, if we want to create, a business environment, a commercial environment where we are sustainable, we need to be distinct from other organizations. It's not simply enough to say, oh, you want to serve patients, you want to help people, we're a healthcare company, come and work for us. There's got to be something that's different. It's like consistent and compelling messaging, and it has to go across all of our comms. And the consistency is absolutely key. We see lots of organizations that do a firework moment, or we'll have a project, or we're doing this, or we've created, we've had this much money for this project, and we've got these great images and these great videos and these great people, and then it fizzles and it becomes nothing. And conversely, it's not consistent through the organization. So you've got a bunch of internal people that go, hang on a second, that's a shiny veneer. That's not the experience that I'm necessarily feeling. There is enhanced engagement and pride, and that's what this is about at the end of the day. We recognize that we work within a sector where people want to help others and they want to make a difference. And we're incredibly proud of the people within our organization and across the sector as a whole. And for us, we have to enhance the I guess that engagement internally to create this environment where we've got huge advocacy from the people within the organization out into the external market. Sector awareness is key. Now, sector awareness isn't what healthcare is and who the NHS are and what it is to be a healthcare worker, but it's understanding what careers and opportunities and development is actually like. I think we often hear a lot of negative impact, probably about healthcare from the media and from service provision and what it's like to work on the front line. Well, that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to take, a huge amount of positive messaging from our people that live and breathe healthcare. They live and breathe their patients and live and breathe the work that they do, and drive awareness of what it's like to actually have a career and a long career, that's stable with lots and lots of development. But the key that I was talking about is the differentiation. So how do we show the sector and show healthcare, but show why we're different as an organization? And to do that effectively well, we really need to understand our value proposition and our employer brands. Hence, our work with DNA.
So let's dive into the meat of it then. How did you do it? How did you go about doing that?
So, like everything, we went by committee and we did lots of research and we put out surveys and we asked a load of questions of our people, which is fine because we need to get that scoping from somewhere. And then we have to factor that we have an operational frontline group of people that can't just take time off the phones or can't take time away from patients and just book in a load of meetings and come speak to us. So we took that survey route. Workshops with managers. So we took our initial messaging and refined that and played that back through our manager groups that perhaps have a different level of accountability within the organization. And then lastly, that was refined even further with our executive team. So all the way up to our chief executive, but more one-to-one and more personalized. These are the messages that we're getting from our people. How does this feel to you? How does this resonate? And what do you think? And we really wanted to be clear that this was a bottom-up initiative. This was about inverting the pyramid, if we're going to say the top down, invert that pyramid and say, this is for our people, by our people. Who are you? How do you feel? What is the organization? And how do we create a really compelling EVP based around you? We developed an initial EVP framework. And this is where we started to get a little bit stuck with that differentiation and that compelling message. So we were able to identify the key drivers for people within our organization. We understood healthcare as a sector, but it just felt a little bit flat. and it felt a little bit samey, and it felt a little bit disingenuous, if I'm truly honest. And we were doing that thing that I just said we don't want to do, which is put a veneer and say, well, this is us, this is what we think the organization is, which is truly unfair, and it's where we see brands flop ultimately. So we went out to market. We met the guys from DNA. It was a solid click from day one. I'm sure John will step in a second, but we had to say, look, we're partway through a project. There's some really great stuff here that we don't want to lose, but we really need you to come and help us take this to the next level.
Great. Well, it sounds like you did a lot of initial work. Obviously, start with an audit, see where you are, get employee feedback, develop the framework, and then you brought in John. John, are you used to being brought in this late in a process? It sounded like Chris has done a lot of the legwork there.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, every client is different, every situation is different, and we have some clients where we just start from first principles. They don't really know where to go on their journey, but we've also got a number of clients who are also partway down the journey. They might have done a lot of the legwork and research themselves, which is great because we don't have to reinvent the wheel or duplicate time and cost.
Right.
So that's really good. We just have to check it and authenticate it, cover any gaps. We've done a few rescue missions where marketing have done it, but it's just not right. Or another agency's done it and it's just not right. Or, we have a number of clients where there is a global EVP in place that's probably come out of the state somewhere. And we can't change it. Of course, we can't change it, but we can make it appropriate for their European audiences or their UK audiences, for example. There's a process that we follow. We had a number of questions come through when delegates joined about the process. So this is the process we follow, and whether clients join partway through or whether we're starting first principles. And we produce fantastic creative work that gets the pulse racing, makes you feel lovely, warm, deep inside, whether it's digital or social media or copy or video. But that beautiful creative work is underpinned by really boring things like structure, discipline, measurement, and a really clear process. At my previous agency, the CIPD came to us and asked the team to write the CIPD no nonsense guide to employer branding. So unsurprisingly, we follow the same process. It's proven to eliminate risk of any form. It engages stakeholders and it delivers business results. So whoever you are, wherever you are in delegate land on this webinar, this is the process you should follow. For those reasons, number one, 1 and 2 are probably the most important. Number 1 is about setting objectives. This is a means to an end, not an end in itself. What are we trying to achieve? Is it cost per hire, time to hire, accelerating our diversity journey, giving us cut through in difficult talent markets, improving candidate experience, improving our ENPS score, cutting early attrition, cutting attrition generally, improving our CNPS score. Success in role it has become more key, where organizations want fewer, better people, and we need to be hiring people who aren't just here on day 1 of year 1, they're here on day 1 of year 2 and day 1 of year 3, living their best life. That's also when you engage those key stakeholders. So whether it's marketing or whether it's the C-suite, that's where we sit down and we show them this is a good, positive exercise. And it will make us money and save us money every day once we've implemented it properly. The second really important one is discovery. Everything's based on a foundation of pact, whether that's one-to-ones with senior leaders, one-to-few with the squeeze middle, focus groups with representative members of staff from across the business, and a ton of desk research, whether it's looking at attrition data, engagement data, a brand audit, a social media audit, a career site audit, a collateral audit. We'll do a competitor review because if we're going to be distinct, authentic, and compelling, we want to carve out a place to call our own, not look the same and sound the same as everybody else. And it's that foundation of fact that ensures we have something going forward that's distinct, authentic, and compelling. Analysis interpretation is what's the research telling us, and that's where we start to build the stem cells of the new EVP and employer brand. The definition bit in number 4 is how we create it, stress test it a little bit, ensure it's distinct, authentic, and compelling. From that one overarching EVP and employer brand, if we've done our work properly, we should be able to segment it across all of those different talent audiences. So if we're really going to nail early years, how do we make sure that the messaging is appropriate for our early years audience? There's 60 something million people in the UK. We don't want them all to come and work here, but there'll be a certain type of person that succeeds and stays. And through things like, I don't know, social ad creator, job ad toolkit, a messaging matrix, that's where you focus that you're able to distill a consistent message right across your target audience, but something that absolutely nails, oh, I don't know, might be early years, might be the older people in a multi-generational workforce. In a care environment, they could be full-time, they could be part-time, they could be sessional. A number of people in the question said, how do I hire admin roles? How do I hire finance roles? If we get the shaping of your message correct, then the sharing of it through segmentation will look after itself. Creative development and testing, we've got to make sure we stress test it right across the employee life cycle. It's not just a campaign. This needs to build reputation upstream. We can create a really good candidate experience through this. The candidate experience should be distinct, authentic, and compelling. We're always going to reject more people than we hire. So if we want to build our reputation, then that's probably a pretty good first port of call. So we look at every touch point. What does it mean in attrition? What does it mean in attraction? What does it mean in candidate experience? How do we get more candidates to yes? How do we get more candidates to not just to yes, but to rock up on day one? What does it mean for onboarding, induction, internal comms, engagement, etc.? That's where you stress test it from a creative point of view. And then finally, implementation and measurement. You can't measure what you can't improve what you don't accurately measure. Setting objectives, whether it's cost per hire, time to hire, success in role. Gathering the data is sometimes quite difficult, and we have to support clients to get a data set that we think is usable to be able to then prove the ROI as they go on the journey. Everything in implementation, everything in measurement is about focusing on those objectives. And from a launch point of view, that's a great watershed moment to stop the world, celebrate what we're doing, who we are, what we stand for, why it's different and special to be us and work here, to then sort of go on the journey together. So that's the approach. And then there was a ton of questions about, we know that creating an EVP and employer brand is the right thing to do, but how do we embed it? How do we bring it to life? How does it evolve? How do we keep it fresh? So the answer is you look at every touch point on the employee life cycle. Every single touch point is an engagement opportunity. If we can get the EVP and the employer brand to run as the golden thread through every touch point on that employee life cycle and obsess about each one, then we're in a good place. And we have some clients who go in a nice orderly fashion all the way along that tube map. For others, we'll dive into where there's a real opportunity or real low-hanging fruit. Nobody does everything all at the same time. We've got clients who are sort of 4 years down the line and they're just embracing employee advocacy and just embracing employee reputation, having done the usual suspects of career site and job ad toolkit and getting the managers to deliver the employment experience that we want and need them to.
Great.
But
Thank
you should never ask. That was a long answer to a short question.
Thank you very much for that, John. In short, you're happy to plug in wherever along this brand shift timeline. No delegate, no client, no talent attraction leader follows the same process. That they all start at a different point.
Every client's different. Every situation's different. For some organisations, it genuinely is a stop the world moment, and a proper repurposing and reset on the talent agenda. For others, we do something called employer brand light. I mean, time might be short or budget is short.
Yeah.
And we want to get the benefits of an EVP and employer brand, but maybe without that big deep dive. We want to engage marketing. We want to reinforce the corporate brand. We want to get some cut through, but we don't necessarily want to have a big stop the world and watershed moment. But we can move with a lighter touch and still get the benefits with something, with the employer brand light approach.
Nice. That's good to know. Quick wins. And it's also great to hear that you work with the internal stakeholders, because I know a lot of challenge the TA community have is getting that internal buy-in, especially with the challenge with recruitment budget currently. So it's great to know you can do a light option for
we've done more business case presentations in 2024 than probably the previous 3 years put together, where the HR leader or the TA leader or the resourcing leader, they know that this will increase the quality, decrease the cost, and ensure legacy of improvement. But we've got to go and prove it to the C-suite, the budget holder. So we can show them other examples. We can show them what the example might look in their business. We can also show them that actually they don't have to go and find new money for this. They're already spending it through poor hiring, either inefficient hiring,
Yeah.
wrong use of agencies, too many locums, often or bank staff in a care setting, people who aren't succeeding in role. So typically we can prove you don't have to go and find new money because you're already spending it every day.
Reallocating.
And years and years ago, I used to work for Cadbury Schweppes, and they taught you on the sales training course that an objection is a plea for more information. So
Mhm.
when you go and do those C-suite conversations, they're not necessarily saying no, absolutely not. It's just a plea for more information. And when you show them, actually, we can help you act like the company you want to become, and you can help you do what leaders do, and this is how you do it, then you sort of get somewhere.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, John. Let's bring Chris back in. Chris, where are DHU and DNA currently then on their journey? We talked about where you initiated their input. Where are you now?
Um, I would say I'd argue this the stress test periods. We It's not managing to cut chunks of time out. We had a whole host of information, and we were able to just volley all of that over to DNA and go unpick all that for us. So here's where we are, here's where we want to be, here's what we like, here's what we don't like, and can you go away and find that perfect picture for me and come back to us? And they did all that in the journey. So we're at that we'll call it socialization rather than stress testing right now. So again, we have to go through budget holders, we have to go through our C-suite in the organization, but truth be told, this needs to be an authentic message to our people, by our people, from our people. And it's not to sound cliche. If it doesn't resonate, there's absolutely no point in doing it. So there's arguably a squeaky bum moment, where we're about to go. We push it into the new year. It's we're coming into Christmas. It's winter. It's a busy period for us, and we want to maximize the time. But yeah, we're about to ask our people, what do you think of the work we've done on the back of what you said? So yeah, it's a shame we don't come back in. Can we come back in a month or two and tell you how it's gone? Which would be fantastic.
Sure, we could do that, couldn't we, John?
Yeah,
Um,
by all means.
and what you'll start to see is a sample of lots of words on this. We won't read them off clearly, but you'll start to see a sample of the work that we've done. One of the things that John mentioned was, how do you get all of those internal stakeholders together? Well, it's all right for TA. Here's my money, and I want to find great people, and here's all my problems. We can just fix them through this manner. But I also have our comms and marketing colleagues, and that's been a really important journey for us. We see in most organization, comms and or marketing and TA, we don't work well. We don't work together, because I have an employer brand I want to sell, and our comms and marketing colleagues have got this consumer brand that's all encompassing, and it has to be risk adverse and watertight all the way through. But that collaboration has been fantastic. So we've had to take elements of basic stuff like our color palette all the way through to our tone of voice, our moments, and all the things that we want to transform to in the future. Our employer brand, so for you, for them, with us. Now, it's very difficult in healthcare to not use the words care, but we want to use the word care. Our values are care, C-A-R-E, but how do you have something that's very different? And what we were able to identify, or rather our colleagues or our partners at DNA were able to identify, is everything in this organization is about either for our colleagues around us, or clearly for our patients, for them. We wanted to put our people at the top of that pyramid. So our people put the patient first. We want to put our people first to deliver that exceptional, care and those great patient outcomes. And then with us, that unification through purpose. And that's what this organization and all healthcare organizations have to be. We won't wax lyrical about recruitment journeys or inefficiencies, but full well, if you can't segment your audience, if you can't define the persona, if you can't create a mirror image message that resonates with a candidate, you waste money. As we can say, every time I make a wrong decision with a hire, it's £9,500. I do that 100 times a year, 200 times a year, 300 times a year. We're talking millions. So to John's point, you're already spending the money. Let's do it in a better way. So for us to be able to create this shared pride, this shared fulfillment, and this real vocational feel within the sector was so important. So that's our new employer brand. So now we're unveiling it in a very strange way. We didn't want to do this because we've got some launch stuff coming up, but I think it's important to see those outputs from the work that we've done together with
It,
John and the team.
that bit, the in the with us bit, we're united through purpose, teamwork, shared pride, and fulfillment. A number of the questions that came through were why would people join us for anything other than more money? And the reality is all of your staff at the moment, whoever you are, could probably go and get a job somewhere else for more money. And the people who are seeking to join you, yes, there'll be a financial consideration, but 90, is it 94? 94, 95% of buying decisions are based on emotion, not logic. So the purpose of everything we do in the EVP and employer brand is how we want to make them feel. And certainly since COVID, the candidate world has changed. People seek meaning in their work more than ever before. And that, to get the distinct, authentic, and compelling bit for any client, but particularly with DHU, was really important. So wherever you are, you don't have to throw money at this. You need to shape and share your story in the most effective way, so you find people that align with your purpose and values. Back to you, Christoph.
Start to see a selection of John's the only person that calls me Christoph, and I can't help but laugh every time you do. You'll start to see a selection of images as we run through the slides. It should seem obvious, right? Everybody can create a website. You can do that yourself. Everybody can put a color palette together. Anybody can go and get an image. For us, it was about consistency. So a nice, consistent message. It had to be really clean, and that's the feedback we've started to get. It has to be really clean and not just saturated with lots of just healthcare. And it has to be really clean and not just saturated with lots and lots of words. This is emotional look and feel with our people and with our sector. Not I'm just telling you like it because you say you like it and I'll pay you more money, won't I? So you will like it. That's the brands that we see, 80, 90% of the marketplace. Has to be fresh, has to be clean, but has to emotionally resonate. You have to be able to see yourself, with this. You have to be able to think, that's me. I want to go home at the end of the day, having, completed, a hard day's shift. I've put in my work. I've maybe taken 30, 40 calls. 20% of those might have been mental health calls that day. It's very simple to write a job description and go, oh, well, you've got some customer service experience, and you can speak English and you've got a decent phone manner. Well, that's it's incredibly derogatory towards the work that our colleagues do. But I also need to find a message that says, I want to be that person. I want to see myself answering the phone. I want to make a difference in people's lives, which again was a key driver. Clearly, we'll talk about our benefits, throughout. But for us, it's not calling out, you can have lots and lots of money. Well, this isn't a sector that drives, great share value, that drives 100, 200, 300,000 pounds a year. Clearly not. If you want money and if you want a pathway that is steeped in just financial earning, well, this probably isn't for you. If you want stability and development, though, that's a great award. You want a team around you that are authentic and care about patients or customers or the output of the work. This is the award for you. This is the reward for you. This is the benefit for you. Make sense?
Definitely. Yeah, that's great.
And I think we can keep flicking through these, but essentially, what we wanted was something that we could bring to life to people where they could see themselves, they could see the message, they could read the words and say, yeah, that resonates with me, or no, it doesn't. Now, like I say, we're going into a bit of our watershed moment where we're going to find out how well that resonates with our people. But for us at this moment in time, we recognized where we were going wrong. We went straight to recruitment. We went straight to attraction. We went straight to the thing that everybody wants to do. I want a shiny image on a screen. I want my website. I want my adverts. I want it to look great, but with absolutely no depth and no measurements whatsoever. And there's nothing to improve against. For us, it's nice to be able to move this through at a more palatable pace, to keep checking and adjusting as we go, to make sure that when we do launch, it's exactly what our 3,500 colleagues look, think, and feel.
Great. There's some, very authentic and emotional messaging throughout these images. Very good. So that's where you are now. You're presenting to the team in the new year. After that, where are you going? What does the future hold?
So there was a bit of a trigger moment there. John said, you don't have to do everything in one go. And we said, John, we don't want to do everything in one go because we almost need to, but we know that this is a model that will continue to mature. So when we look at that life cycle of where you would, for us, where we would input various elements of our EVP refining or refining our employer brand, we've got to get to a baseline, really, really quick. So we don't want to wait 4 years to do, employee advocacy. We don't want to wait 2 years for a brand toolkit. We want all of this stuff now, but we recognize we need to get to a baseline place and continue to model our maturity. So the next thing is a brand toolkit. So it's not simply enough to say to a bunch of marketing colleagues and recruiter colleagues, cool, here you go, here's some shiny bits. I need you to just get on with that. But God help you if you don't put out a consistent message. We need to put the right toolkit in place and put that training and there's a huge amount of support from DNA as the SME in this sector and we as the intelligent customer. How do we take a whole group of marketers on a journey so that everybody matures at the same level? Our photo and video shoots. So that is the exciting bit, right? That's the bit where we bring our colleagues to life. We walk around our estate constantly, from going to an urgent treatment centre to, unfortunately, I'm one of those dirty smokers and having a cigarette at 7 o'clock in the morning when I hit a site and finding somebody that's been on a 3 hour she's been on a night shift since, or she started at 3 o'clock in the morning, and she'd had four, mental health, calls, people in crisis, and somebody needed talking down from a situation. We have those micro moments throughout the organization, and what's incredibly exciting for us now is the playback and that internal launch. We're not so much bothered about the external. The internal launch is so important to us, so we can really play back this great, rich media to our people. Employee advocacy, it's I don't know who it was that started that theory of talent scouts years ago, but we have 3,500 recruiters in our organization. We know good nurses find good nurses, good doctors find good doctors, but actually we need to start getting that message out so it doesn't just come from a HR function or a marketing function, but actually we teach and engage a group of people to become strong advocates for our organization. And then naturally a career site, and that just seems like a basic thing, doesn't it? But actually understanding what the marketplace needs today, it's not just about understanding, Gen Z or a Gen A and digital nomads. We need to understand the demographic makeup of our organization. A whole load of work is going into our EDI and belonging, a conscience and our agenda that we're going further work with DNA. Making sure that we represent the communities that we serve, removing those barriers to entry, making sure that we've got the right adjustments for people coming into the organization. That's really important for us. So there's a whole pathway ultimately to say we don't just want a microsite you've popped together in 10 minutes. We want something that has that strong candidate experience, a strong person experience, but equally that consistent golden thread that runs throughout. So we've got a busy few months ahead of us, but we recognize that immediate, I guess, surge or accelerated piece of work allows us to get to a point where we can then start to strategize what the future years look like.
Okay, great. Quick question to you, John. How are you going to help Chris communicate internally with the brand toolkit?
The brand toolkit is there to lock in the investment they've made in that bit about shaping and sharing the message. So whether it's the time poor, extremely busy TA folk, whether it's people in marketing, whether it's people in internal comms, we've got our employer brand guidelines locked in, because we know that is the best of DHU, distinct, authentic, and compelling. And the reality is, people come and go. There's turnover in marketing departments; they get pulled into projects. Internal comms get pulled off into other things, but that's okay because we've got that investment locked in. And as and when the newbies come in, we can retrain them in not just the letter of the law of the brand guidelines, but the spirit of the law. The key thing is to make sure that they're fit for purpose. So if we've got, if we've got a job ad toolkit with a selection of intro, body copy, and call to action paras, or we've got the right social media tools going into the right places, we've got the right imagery, we've got stuff that's up to date, we've got the moments of truth and those golden bullets to fire, that they're all up to date. So that's about locking it in.
Okay, superb. Well, thank you very much, Chris. I got a question straight in to the Q&A. How do you intend to facilitate discussions with your employees and address their feedback in the new year?
So we have an organization that is very email heavy, perhaps, and then a group of people that are maybe on part-time, 4 on, 4 off. They don't have time to go through, hundreds of emails and do surveys, etc. So we are taking a bit of a blend between digital drop-in, but even visual face-to-face. So we recognize that everybody probably wants to go to the toilet on shift or go and make a brew on shift. So for a prolonged or protracted period of time, we will physically showcase our work, simple laddered questions on a quick Q&A to ask about how that feels, how does that resonate, any suggestions, any comments. All of that's fed back through to our partners at DNA, and we will well, there's two approaches here. One, everything is well, or actually it doesn't resonate. It's not compelling. That doesn't feel like me. And then we may have to do, a back to the drawing board moment. And nobody wants to say that in a project, and it's a tough thing to say to internal stakeholders. But if you're going to invest any level of cash, if you're going to do this properly, you need to accept that this is messaging from your people. So all of that information will be captured. We'll be reviewing at the end of January. We know that the drivers remain consistent across the organization. So at this point in time, tweaking images, tweaking words, tweaking messaging is not overly a concern. We would like to also think that the way in which we articulate back to our people is, this is what you said to us. This is what all of you have said to us. It doesn't matter, if you are the caretaker or the chief executive. We are all colleagues within this organization. And this, we feel, is the visualization of everything you've said and we feel.
It's a great, that objectivity is a fantastic point, because with every client, you get to this crystallization where you have that validation exercise with the existing staff, but you tell the story. This is what we're trying to achieve. This is what the research has told us. This is why we've crafted these messages, and this is what we think the implementation looks like. So it becomes an objective exercise. It's what the research has told us. It's what you guys have told us. It's the voice of the people, not something subjective. So one of the real benefits of that validation exercise is, it gets people excited about, we can shout about this organization externally. What's also really useful is sometimes you'll sit with somebody in the C-suite and they go, oh no, we want to be more like Apple, or we want to be more like Google. And you have to sit them down and say, no, you don't. You don't need to be. Just be you. Just being you, the best version of you, will be good enough. And what the research has told us is this. So that's, it's good from that point of view. And we do have to sometimes put those C-suite people back in their box who want to be just like Apple, which is just going to crash and burn quickly.
Yeah, manage expectations.
Yeah.
Okay, superb. Thank you very much. Well, before we go through the Q&A that we gathered from everyone's registration, we're just gonna get some feedback on today's webinar, please. So we're gonna have another Slido poll, which our events team will launch. This helps us iterate what we offer you guys. It also helps Chris and John develop their presentations for the future. And then while you're doing that, if you want to flick on a slide, John, and we can dive into the meaty questions. Over to you.
Yeah, so, there's 3 pages of questions. I think there's 8 here, and I've tried to answer some as we went along. There's actually quite a lot more that we're not going to have time for, so we're going to put together some sort of FAQ document which we can share with everybody. Money is tight. Everybody knows that every penny has to be invested and measured, not just spent. So we've got, as I said, we had a number of times we've had to go and prove the business case to the finance director or the procurement director or the CEO. But you absolutely can build it on a limited budget, whether it's using some of the existing data, whether it's focusing on some of the key deliverables. As I say, we follow that process. Sometimes it's a root and branch exercise, but there's also one where you skim along the top, and which we call employer brand light, and we can deliver the benefits of an EVP and employer brand to clients with a limited budget. It's doable. You still plan the work and work the plan. You still follow a process. It's not about coming up with some clever gimmicky lines and something that might look nice on a campaign. the simplest definition of a brand is identity plus reputation. So we've still got to make sure we've got a distinct, authentic, and compelling identity. And from a reputation point of view, you have to earn it. It can't be something that you just buy or is given to you. And whether it's a limited budget or whether you've got thousands, hundreds of thousands to throw at it, it's still got to meet those criteria. Lots of people ask how long the process takes. Typically, that process I showed you is about 12 to 13 weeks from start to finish. We had one tech organization where the PE company were putting a huge amount of pressure on, and we did it in 6. We've got some clients where it's about doing it in the right timescale to make sure we engage all the shareholders, stakeholders. But typically, if you say 12 to 14, you're not going to be far off. How you measure effectiveness, we sit down and we look at those benchmark measurements. So it could be cost per hire, could be time to hire, 3-month attrition, 1-year attrition, 2-year attrition, CMPS score, EMPS score, the diversity stats. So how we're measuring up there. What's our cut through in terms of our early years marketplace? What does success in role look like? So if we're hiring lots of salespeople, how long does it take them to get up and running and get the tills ringing? Are we looking at 8 weeks, 16 weeks, 24 weeks, 26 weeks? We can set those benchmark measurements in place. And then when we're implementing, we go back, whether it's every month or every 3 months, to measure the effectiveness and say, look, we're doing this. So for, I don't know, MAN, we cut their first year attrition from 20-something% to 6%. Saving about 500 or 600 grand on recruitment costs in year 1, and they get that in year 2, year 3, year 4 because we changed the process. Pets at Home, 660 grand, Boohoo, 600 grand. So the rewards are there if it's about cost per hire, time to hire, better way of working, if you get some sort of benchmark measurement in place. How do you get buy-in from key stakeholders? You show them that this is good business. This is good for the customers, it's good for the people, it's good for the bottom line, and it will make us money and it will save us money every day. So that's how we get buy-in from the key stakeholders. A number of people ask questions about marketing. How do we get marketing on board? The answer is everything we do in the space reinforces the corporate brand. It never dilutes it and never runs against it. And when they see actually they've probably got an ally who's going to protect their brand, they're probably okay. And then really quickly, the last bit of questions. How do I differentiate? You don't have to look the same, sound the same, and say the same things. If we get the discovery right, you really can shape a differentiated story. Bringing those moments of truth to life, as we're doing with DHU, are really key. Particularly, we talked about purpose and fulfillment in every organization. There are those little moments of truth that make a big difference. So let's bring those to life. From an authenticity point of view, that's where employee advocacy and using your employees right across the employee life cycle, whether it's in attraction or it could be partway through the candidate process. We've got clients where we use their existing staff to talk about offers. We use existing staff to talk about onboarding and induction, as opposed to just something bland that comes out of the HR department. So if we shape the story in the right way, we can share it with true authenticity using your people. I think I read somewhere 15% of staff believe what the C-suite say, 25% believe what HR and TA say, but 66% believe what your existing employees say, which is why review sites are so important. So that's how you ensure authenticity right across the thing. And I don't know what's been going on out there, but 2, 3, 4 people were talking about the poor reputation they've got, and they don't know how to overcome it. The answer is, if brand equals identity plus reputation, you can build a better reputation through evidence. You build reputation through repetition, and you build it through evidence, and you earn the right. So whatever's happened in the past is the past, and you can absolutely lay whatever those ghosts are. We did some work for a yogurt factory years ago in Chichester, where we worked out that everybody of an employable age in Chichester had either worked at the yogurt factory or would have had a friend or a close friend or relation who'd also worked at the factory and been treated appallingly. So we can fix it in a place like Chichester. I'm sure we can fix it anywhere else. It was awful, actually. When I went there, it was like some sort of Dickensian workhouse.
Oh dear.
So there was a lot of work to do, but we fixed it.
Good job. Anyone who's got any live questions, feel free to type in the Q&A. I think that top question you've just brought up there, John, is very interesting. We
Mhm.
hosted a dinner recently where they discussed different EVPs in different countries as well. Perhaps that's another consideration. You have an overarching EVP and then you have sub EVPs.
Yeah. I mean, we've been doing this a while, and we wrote the book, as I said. So, we have organizations where they've got multiple brands in the same group, and it might well be that consumers and candidates know the child brand and love it and recognize it and are unaware of the parent, or they might know that there's some link. Um, the overall group employment experience will have enough common threads, so you should be able to have a consistency around EVP and then segment it across either the different brands or the different roles or the different geographies. So if you get the research done correctly upstream and you know what this thing is for, you set your objectives in the first place, then you can you can segment and contextualize and subdefine that message, whether it's geography, whether it's different brands. We've got one client where nobody's heard of the parent company, but they absolutely know the under of the brands, but we've got a group proposition. And the last question, I'm a bit conscious of time, Guy, how do you keep your EVP and employer brand fresh and relevant, impactful over time? Is it's a living, breathing, evolving thing. That candidate and employee journey on the brand shift model holds you to account to make sure you've got that consistent golden thread. Setting objectives at the start also holds you account to make sure that this thing is there to do good for the people, the bottom line, the customer, as opposed to just be a thing and then everybody ticks the box and moves on.